Hey, Sens fans, welcome to another spectacular episode of the Senstennial Podcast. Today, we're going over some preseason stuff. We're going to be breaking down how Ottawa shapes up. We're going to look at forwards, defense, goaltending. We're even going to talk a little bit about the coaching staff, front office, and what our thoughts are on this season, and whether the Sens are going to break our hearts again, or whether we are going to relish in the good times of finally breaking that playoff drought. So, off the top, let's break it down. All right, let's talk forwards. Bennett, how are you feeling about our forward core? Are there any holes in there that you're really worried about? Anybody who's got you like revving, ready to go? You're like, oh damn, this guy's gonna go off this season.
Yeah, I think that this forward core is better than it was last year. I think that we've made a couple of intelligent depth acquisitions, guys like David Perreault and Micah Mario, Nick Cousins. I think, if Zach Ostapchuk can slot in on that fourth line there, he's looked pretty worthy of that spot. I think that I'm happier with our depth this year, especially if we'll have, both Pinto and Norris to start the year. Think that makes a huge difference to our center depth. Um, and I think and I think we're also hoping to see a bounce back season from Tim Stutzle as well. We understand that he was nursing a wrist injury for most of last year. We've been led to believe that that has been dealt with now. We've heard anecdotally from our guest CJ last week, as well as from people on the ground, that he looked really good in preseason. He looks zippy, looks like he's moving the puck well. So that's all good to see. I think that, if Stutzle, Giroux, and Brady can recapture some of that magic from a couple of seasons ago, uh, with the asterisks that we understand that Giroux is, like on the decline now. I think that that could be a really good first line. If we see, Pinto centering line two or Norris centering line two, whichever of them the case may be, I think either of those are a decent choice, and then probably end up moving Greg to the wing and then one of either Norris or Pinto on line three. Again, that's a pretty strong punch up the middle. Bringing in guys like Amadio and Perron with some playoff experience and veteran nous, I think is a good thing. I think things are looking good, but it's like there's still question marks, right? Like we know that we can't bank on the full season of Josh Norris. And, I think if we lose him or if he plays and doesn't perform, then, that's a bit of a hole. Pinto is like really kind of like a great like 2B center or like a 3A. Like I think that having him be your full-time second line center isn't the best case scenario. He's effective, but I mean he's just not like as good as a healthy and firing Josh Norris could be in that situation. And other than that, I think that you're counting on guys like Ostapchuk really stepping into that role. You're counting on guys like Perron and Amadio to still be effective, even though they're in the back half of their career. And so there's still some question marks. But overall, I do feel more confident about this forward core going into this season than I did last year. I think there are generally fewer holes. And if everyone performs to a level that we think that they probably are capable of at where they are in their careers, I think that goal scoring will not be this team's primary problem.
Now, I'll switch it up a little bit for you, Matt. And do you see more gaps in the top six for the Sens or the bottom six? Or what are your thoughts on how the forward lineups, if you're comparing the top half to the bottom half, what is your biggest concern?
I mean, when you say whole or any of the issues, I really think the only issue that the Sens could have this year is definitely Norris's health. Can he go back to the Norris from a couple years ago when he scored as many goals as he did and looked really good? Um, I think our top six is the easiest to project, though, in my opinion. It's going to be Stutzle, Brady, and Giroux. It seems like Green is very happy with that line. Then your second line is going to be Norris, Batherson, and one of Greg or Perron. And I think that's kind of an interesting line because, I just feel like it could fly. It just move, especially with Greg on the wing. And then, I can see Stutzle going right back to the totals from 2 years ago. And over 40 goals. And I think he's going to have over 100 points personally. And then I also think Chuck is going to take another step in his goal scoring. And then I really like the bet on Batherson this year. I think he's going to be a monster. I just feel like he's ready to really crack that ceiling from, a solid top six winger to one of the best, bang for your buck wingers in the league, considering his contract. But then obviously, I think Norris, as I mentioned, but does Giroux regress? He's getting up there, and it makes you wonder if he's going to be
36 years old.
Yeah, he's, is he going to stay as productive and dominant as he has been? And then, like, I don't know about you guys, but the bottom six, I have so much more faith in than I have in previous seasons. Frankly, a third line of Pinto, one of Perron or Greg, and Amadio. That's like, to me, that's like a third line on a cup contender. I don't know if it's bold to say that, but they're so good defensively, while also, basically all of them either having a 20 goal season, or in Greg having the potential to put up a 20 goal season. I think we haven't had that in a long time. And like, you even look at last year, it's like, oh, we were penciling a Stapchuk for that role. And it's just like, I don't think he has I don't think he's ready for it, obviously. But the fourth line has so much competition that I think having a Stapchuk there makes so much sense. He's been one of the best and effective bottom six wingers that we've seen in preseason games. He's had a really good camp. Obviously, Yannick had the 4-point game. And then there's a battle between Gregor and McEwen. And I've actually felt like they've had some pretty solid games and seemingly good camps, especially McEwen. I feel like I notice him pretty consistently. So honestly, like, overall, this is the best I've felt about our forward core in a long time. And I don't think that's a crazy thing to say.
I think there's definitely a lot more competition for the fourth line and even the third line this season. But it brings me back to when Ottawa had that line of Mathieu Joseph and Shane Pinto and Tyler Mott, and they were a great third line. And then Norris got injured, and all of a sudden that line had to be broken up. Shane Pinto moved up the lineup, and then that chemistry was never able to be fully realized because they never got to really play together again. So for me, it seems like our depth is the best it's been since that season. And, all things being equal, let's hope that injuries don't play a role in this team's downfall this season. For Claude Giroux, I mean, he's one season removed from the highest goal scoring season he's had in his career. So that's something to note. He kind of has aged like a fine wine. Even last season, he wasn't getting a ton of points at all situations, but you can see the hockey IQ is still there. He still makes really good reads on the ice. Offensively, defensively, he was one of Ottawa's most balanced forwards. So even if hypothetically he only gets like 50, 60 points this season, I imagine he'll still be a key component of this team, especially when it comes to power play, penalty kill. He's a really smart player, and I think that'll do him favors as he continues to age. And he's still got decent speed for his age as well, so that helps. I'm in agreement with you on when it comes to the like bottom six, and you're looking at competition. I mentioned that earlier, but I think we also didn't bring up the fact that Nick Cousins has looked pretty decent in camp too. And I think there's a possibility that we see potentially a line of like Noah Gregor, Nick Cousins, and Zach McEwen to start the season. I would like to see a guy like Ostapchuk or Yannick get in there, to be honest with you, but we'll see how it shakes out. I just haven't been as disappointed or worried about Gregor McEwen as I thought I would be. So I think that could work out quite well for the Sens. But is there anybody in the forward core? Maybe I'll flip it back to Bennett. Anyone in the forward core who you think might not make it out of training camp, who you would really like to see at least get maybe a call up this season or something to that effect?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a guy like Angus Cruikshank, linger around the bubble area between the AHL team and the NHL team. I think that he probably deserves a look at some point this year if there's need for someone to fill a role on that fourth line. I don't think that his success or failure is going to have a significant impact on the team's fortunes, but it's just, he deserves a bit of an extended look. And if he doesn't get it this year, it's likely he's not going to. So it'd be nice if there's a way to give him that opportunity, but also those opportunities are earned. And if he hasn't impressed anyone at camp this year, and I think the most recent is he has been sent back down to the A, then maybe that's just the way she goes.
How about yourself, Matt? Is there anyone that you're hoping either maintains a spot on the roster or someone who you think might get sent down, but you hope to see later this season?
I think for the forwards, I kind of have to agree with Bennett on Angus Crookshanks. I think he's a good he's this player that just I feel like hasn't had the best chances when he's really hot. But and then when he kind of dips or comes back from an injury is like kind of when they do the call up. And so him, or I don't know, like I really thought Stephen Halliday had a really good camp. And I really thought the games that he played in, he really displayed his hockey IQ. And I know that's like a buzzword and all that, but he reads the game really well. He's very smart. And I don't think it's just because he's a former guest of the Senstennial Podcast. But I think it's just he's a heck of a player. And one of the comments I saw a lot was his skating ability, but I really didn't see that he's a bad skater. Not by any means. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point we had an injury maybe in the top 9 that maybe he gets a call up.